This video is in partnership with Chaos Tournaments. Check the links in the description below for more information.
You fucking bolded, embrace the Incredible Hulk. You goofball.
Yeah, what's up? We got my boy Emmett here.
How's it going, guy?
Yeah, what's up, man? We got the co-author. Really helped out a lot with this deck, and yeah, we're gonna talk about this shit and how good it is, how incredible it is.
It is S tier. This is what you should be playing into the current meta. But it's a lot of fun. I'm really pleased with what we were able to come up with here, and I'm very curious to see how it plays out over the next couple of months. I'm definitely putting this together and giving it a whirl. And thank you, Kai, for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I gotta get your good brain on here.
You're being entirely too charitable with that one. Bro, this deck is so hot. I fucking love the philosophy of this deck. It's so funny. It's just like single target stack interaction sucks. We're not gonna play any of it. It's just gonna be all gas.
It's like, your goal with this deck is just to simply not interact. Just like,
let's go. But like everyone thinks you're gonna be, though. That's the best part. Is like you get to just like represent interaction if people don't know what you're playing. And you know, people will still be gun shy because they think you have it, but you get to just play like 100 gas cards instead.
It's literally insane because like I was playing a game on a Nexus and they were like, they're like, "Yo, you have the Mindbreak Trap? Tell me you have the Mindbreak Trap." And I'm like, "Ooh,
so you're a liar."
This is literally lying to the gathering right now.
Yeah. And I just like I have no interaction. Sorry, man.
It's so like, funny.
And then yesterday I played a game where somebody was like, "Yeah, does anybody have any interaction?" And I think somebody played Portable Hole.
Oh, sure,
and they took out the null rod, and then they're like, "Yeah, I wish we had interaction for artifacts or something like that." And I was like, "Yeah, if you just unlock my null rod, there you go." And they were like, "You know what? That's a good point." Brought it right back, and I was like, "All right, cool. Looks like we're back in this game."
This is definitely like a like predatory deck on the meta. Like people are gonna expect one thing and get something very, very different when they sit down against this deck.
All right, I don't have any like notes or anything like that. It's just a fucking sick deck.
Should we go? I mean, do we want to talk overall strategy first and then kind of dig into the details?
Yeah, 100%. But I guess we should start with the commander first. All right, so we got Zimone and Dina, and it is a Sultai commander, so we're 1 green, 1 black, and 1 blue, and it is a human dryad. Whenever you draw your second card, each turn, target opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life, which almost never happens. Sacrifice another creature. Draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you control 8 or more lands, repeat this process, which also never happens. But we don't play for those things. We just play for the sacrifice outlet.
You brought this up to me that like it could be like a good Hulk deck. I hadn't even like looked at any of the spoilers for the set, but then you sent this to me, and yeah, like immediately it made sense as like. Yeah, just like a solid Hulk deck. And also, particularly, at least for me, part of the intrigue was that the ability says draw a card, which means that if you're hulking into Laboratory Maniac, you automatically get the draw off that, which seemed quite appealing to me as well. And it's just a 3/4, and it sort of has some land synergies, and it just seemed very fun. So I feel like that was our starting point.
Yeah, initially I came to you, I was like, oh my god, this could be a Legacy Lands deck. This is the deck.
Right.
It's just not the deck anymore.
That's the other thing. We've been like talking about building this stupid fucking cEDH Lands deck, and it's just not going to happen. But I have like 50 cards in my binder for this deck. I traded for more last night, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
what's
got
the commander for it?
Arkelos, so keep an eye out for that. But fucking Amulet Titan and cEDH. But yeah, like Hulk makes complete sense for this. And Hulk, honestly, in my opinion, is really, really good in the current meta. Just like the fact that a lot of the Hulk piles can win under Rule of Law is very appealing.
Speaking of Rule of Law, we're playing Rule of Law.
Yeah, in blue. Fun fact, I don't know how much play this card sees outside this deck, but like blue just has Rule of Law. It had the first Rule of Law. This predates Rule of Law,
Yeah,
right?
this is the OG rule of law.
It's the numero uno, so we're playing that for sure. And I mean, this is sort of a spoiler alert for the rest of the deck, but we're not terribly interested in the standard Sultai interaction suite, or at least not when it comes to the stack. We're really trying to control the board until we can set up the Hulk win. So, I mean, do we want to talk about the Stax package real quick?
Sure. Where you want to start? You want to start with the creatures?
Let's start with the creatures. I mean, a lot of them, it's interesting because when I'm looking at these, some of them are cards that you would play in your standard Sultai deck anyways, just because they're good value. But stuff like Douthie Voidwalker, Notion Thief, like these are Stax pieces. Opposition Agent, Stax piece. You know, we're just playing them in concert with a more aggressive Stax strategy across the board. And then we do have one that I think is quite sexy, which was an addition that you had in Perplexing Chimera, which Kinnan has made very popular.
Yeah,
you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, shout out to Tyler. I've learned how to play this card from Tyler because he plays it a lot. Always gets it from. He always drops it in there with Kenan, and then you learn how to play against it when you play against Tyler. You learn exactly how this card works.
The way you play against it is you don't. You just lose.
Yeah, you don't play any spells, and then you just play enticing spells, and you're just like, do you want this spell? And they're like, nah, I'm good.
But the funny thing is like I feel like there are certain situations where we're even okay like swapping it for something else. Like if we're like very far away from a win, we're okay giving up Perplexing Chimera because it can still act sort of as that Stax piece, because as long as someone other than the Nas player controls the Perplexing Chimera, like that's going to shut off whatever sort of like breachy Nas plan that the turbo deck has going on, because they're just not going to go for it. And then I guess from there we could move maybe to the artifacts. Do you want to break down the artifacts that we're playing? We got a couple spicier ones in here, particularly I think Damping Sphere, is one that you thought of that I think is a really nice addition.
Yeah, I've been wanting to play that card for a really, really long time. I actually ran into a game where I was playing against a new Heliod. I don't know if you know the new Heliod.
The one that flips into the sort of Vidalcan-Ori type. Is that right? It gives all your stuff flash, and then like it's cheaper somehow also.
Yeah, if an opponent draws a card, then all your spells cost one less.
Yes. Okay.
But one person had a what was it? The 7-mana big fish.
Nezahal. Yes.
Yeah, they had a Nezahal out, so they were like, "Oh yeah, nice free game." It was directly negating the Dampening Sphere by like them drawing cards off of every non-creature spell.
That's horrifying.
Yeah,
that's so rough.
Yeah, nobody can really like play more than like two to three spells into this. Right.
It's like a functional second Rule of Law effect for us in a lot of ways. Like obviously you can't really combo off like out of your yard with Breach with something like this. It sort of restricts Nozes to stuff like well, first of all, you need to have the mana already on board if you're going to Noz with this, or it needs to be an end step Noz, because otherwise, playing your rocks is just not profitable unless you have Mana Crypt. And it has to kind of be the sort of Noz where like you're setting up for a Thoracle win, so like it's very telegraphed, like the strategy that you're actually able to get off. So it's very advantageous in that regard. Particularly since we can't play stuff like Deafening Silence and Rule of Law and Archon and things like that, like it's a really effective piece for us in this deck, I feel. Chalice of the Void, I guess, is one that doesn't see play in all Stax decks, but it probably should.
It's also a little like, it's kind of hard to like tell what you should put it on, because most people just put it on 0 and they're like, all right, cool, go ahead. One's kind of hard because most of the curve in our deck is like 1. We got a lot of 1 2s, 2 drops. 3's a little bit more costly.
Right, six mana for Chalice is kind of tough unless you got the Cradle online. And 1, like you say, we do run like things like Viscera Seer, obviously, are things we want to resolve. 2, you've got Thoracle, Hermit Druid, things of that nature. I imagine us casting it mostly on 0. I haven't had a ton of chances to play with this deck yet, but I imagine this sort of the dream scenario for Chalice is just having it in your opening hand on the play, dumping whatever dork or rock and then casting it on 0 just to shut off whatever greedy keeps your opponents have set up.
Nature's Lore and 3 visits, because they kind of act like Arcane Signatures.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they're 2, and then the land comes in untapped, and then you can just play whatever else you have after that.
Absolutely.
as if it's like an arcane signet. So we don't run like talismans or Felwar Stone or anything like that because they take the place of it.
Yep, and absolutely just more resilient to like not only our stacks but our opponent's stacks. Like ramping with lands, obviously very stable. And honestly, I think particularly with Nature's Lore and 3 Visits, kind of an underrated approach in cEDH. Those are both really strong cards. That, like you say, can kind of serve as a second arcane signet or third arcane signet. Right. And then I guess the last two stacks pieces in the artifact category, we've got Thorn of Amethyst, Trinisphere. Both sort of serving a similar purpose. Again, just trying to slow down those turbo decks. Trinisphere in particular, I feel like is just like exactly what we want to be doing as a dork deck. And, you know, like you get set up and then land that Trinisphere and just like play the waiting game until you can set up a Hulk win.
Yeah, most of my my plays on this, I've seen it turn 1 a lot. And
Jesus.
I always somehow see it when I have a land and a mana crypt. I'm like, oh, this is great.
Right.
And then nobody can play the game after that. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, it's like double time walking your opponents almost. I mean, you are so far ahead after that. And honestly, turn 1 Thorn, I mean, it's to a lesser degree, but especially if you're on the play. If you can resolve a turn 1 Thorn of Amethyst, it's just like, you know, again, whatever greedy keeps your opponents had, like, are severely restricted following that. And it gives you... I mean, the stacks on one hand, like, because we're not a traditional stacks deck in the sense, like, we're not most of the time trying to win with beats. You know, I mean, it can happen. We have some larger creatures. We've got Gilded Drake. We've got Phantasmal Image. We can, you know, steal someone's Najeela and do gross things, worst case. But we're not using the stacks as a means to kind of, like, stall until we can win with combat damage. We're really just trying to use it to, like, stall to get our combo off, which I feel like is kind of unique to this deck. There aren't a ton of decks that, like, behave on a similar axis. The only one I can really think of would be Heliod Ballista. I don't know if you can think of any other ones.
For ones that try to stall until they get to their game plan?
Into the combo specifically, like not trying to win with combat damage.
There aren't many actually. Most of them are just kind of like just beat down central, like Yashar and things like that.
Yep, exactly. But I feel like, you know, for us, like, this is kind of a mechanism to stall until we can draw into our win. You know, whether that's a Hermit Druid line, whether that's getting Hulk into play off like Natural Order or something like that. Yeah, so that's sort of the theory there. And then I guess closing out, we have a couple nice enchantments. We already talked about Arcane Lab. Kai, do you want to talk about Root Maze? That was a card that you picked.
Oh man, usually I hate this card because I've always played against it. But usually when you have a deck that can take advantage of Root Mage and playing Dorks, and just, you know, breaking parity on that and, you know, skipping over your land drop to, you know, use the mana from your Dorks, you're usually a little, I guess, 2 turns ahead of your opponent, because if they pay a fetch, they have to fetch for another land, which also comes in tapped. Their turn 1s are stalled. Their Soul Rings, Arcane Signets, even Mana Vaults come in tapped. It just slows everything down.
Yes, and not just the rocks either, but like this shuts off combos. Like, you know, I'm a big Blue Pod player, and this completely, you know, I mean, I guess you could still do like up the chain into your Kiki Jiki combo, but if you're trying to get to like your you know, dockside loops to draw your deck, you can't. Like, all your shit comes in tapped, and for 1 mana, I mean, that's like a ridiculous rate. I guess we should talk about how we want to win, like win cons and things.
Oh man, all the lines.
All the lines. Well, so yeah, I guess we should start with Hulk, right? That's probably
yeah.
All right.
So all right. So I have the deck list open. You wanna go to the primer, or do you want to go off the top of your head?
No, let's go to the primer. I want to read the stuff I wrote. I can't, but I'm sure there are other lines that you could follow. You know, these are just a few that I thought were kind of fun and appealing. So obviously, you know, we've got a commander that can crack Hulk. So the main thing we're trying to do is just get Hulk into play by any means, and then just crack it right away. We also have plenty of things that can destroy Hulk if our commander's not online. A couple other sack outlets, things like Neoform, Eldritch Evolution. You could even snuff out the Hulk. You just got to make sure that shit doesn't get exiled in response. Yeah, so I guess first line, I mean, I don't know. Discerning readers can probably figure all this stuff out, but
yeah, you don't have to read it all over. But
yeah, the crucial cards I would say are Activated Sleeper is just such a boon for this deck and all of their Hulk decks. The fact that you have a copy of Hulk for 3 mana is just ridiculous. Activated Sleeper plus like Viscera Seer and Thassa's Oracle, you're just like in great shape right away, and can just go with whatever other lines you want. If you already have a sack outlet online too, Body Launderer is great. I love getting like a first pile of Activated Sleeper, sack outlet, and Thoracle.
Yep.
And then you can do like, you can even double Hulk after that, like Body Launderer, Fimage, as your second pile, and then you're just shitting out your deck.
Side note, for anybody who's watching, you cannot put a Fimage into play and then copy a creature that you also got off the same Hulk pile.
This is something we learned, certainly.
Yeah, it's a crucial note, because otherwise we could double Hulk all day. But
this is true. We literally could just churn through the deck. But I guess I don't know how unique this is, but Mogus's Marauder is really central to a lot of our Hulk piles as well, just because we're on both Hermit Druid and Divining Witch. This is a piece of tech that you suggested, Kai, and I really like it. 3 mana. Obviously in our colors, it's tough. We're not in red. We don't have a ton of haste enablers. But Mogus's Marauder is a really solid one that's fetchable off a Hulk and still allows us to get, for example, like Mogus's Marauder, Divining Witch, and Blood Pet is just a great way to exile your deck if that's something you need to do off a second Hulk pile. Similarly, you can do Hermit Druid. One of my favorite piles is just Hermit Druid, Mogus's Marauder, and Birds of Paradise. Because especially if you're sacking with your commander already in play, you get 2 Devotion. You have 1 from your commander and 1 from Mogus's Marauder. So you can give both Birds and Hermit Druid haste, which gives you the mana that you need to activate Hermit Druid. And then you just mill out your deck. And because we run Dread Return, we can just sack those 3 creatures to put Thoracle into play and win with that trigger. Very elegant, very fun, very sexy.
There's a lot of intersecting lines in here.
There are, yeah. And that's another great thing is like we have a lot of ways to pivot if like certain lines are shut off due to stacks, or if we draw some of the cards, or if we, some of them get exiled for some reason. If we do draw some of the cards, like the crucial pieces, we also do run Hapless Researcher, which lets us bin one of them and draw a card. You were mentioning that you do have to be careful of when these abilities are going off, though, especially if you're trying to exile your deck to get the Thoracle win, because you can just kill yourself. But
because when you have Body Launderer in play, Body Launderer does have Connive. So you have to respond to your Connive triggers, which then might draw you a card or could kill you if you exile your deck before any of that happens. Usually what I do is I just let the triggers resolve, draw the cards, but that also could be bad because you might draw a Hulk piece.
Yes.
If you do that,
you have to be a stack master in this deck. You gotta be real careful. But
watch your triggers.
Yes,
watch your draw triggers.
Exactly. But I think there's, if you look at the primary, there's 4 options that I came up with, and I'm sure there are many others as well. These are just ones that occurred to me that seemed good. But it's pretty versatile. You shouldn't have. If you resolve Hulk, you should be able to just win the game. Like, it shouldn't be that complicated.
I've never had a problem trying to close out the game when I sacked out the Hulk. It's really easy to close out the game.
Exactly. There's just so many directions you can go in depending on what pod you're in, what the board state's looking like, etc. And we also do have, you'll see it in a couple of the lines, Sylvan Safekeeper is a really nice backup as well. And you can get that in your first pile just to protect whatever win you're trying to attempt, because all of your wins are coming from creatures anyways. And by this point you probably have 3 or 4 lands, which should be more than enough to protect against any single target removal. And we're not casting spells once we're sacking Hulk for the most part, so we don't need to worry about stack interaction at all either. Do we want to address the elephant in the room?
Yeah. The reason why we're running no counterspells at all.
Yeah, stack interaction is bad. You heard it here first. This is admittedly kind of extreme. We're in great colors for stack interaction, particularly blue. Blue is like the color for stack interaction, but stack interaction in cEDH, obviously necessary in some instances. I think both of us feel that it's not really necessary for this deck.
No, it's not. Because we were running Stax pieces, which can be a preemptive counterspell to counter a strategy instead of being more reactive or being more like precautionary.
Yes,
Stax pieces. So.
absolutely. And it also, from a value perspective, you could argue, and I will argue, trading 1-for-1, as we all know, in a 4-player game is really disadvantageous to the player doing it. And in my opinion, should only really be done as a last resort. That might sound greedy, but that's just how I feel. In this deck, you're not even doing that. You're playing one spell that's going to stick around. You got your Root Maze, you got your Trinisphere, whatever the case, and it's going to completely warp the board and, like you were saying, other players' strategies in a way that casting one counterspell that then goes to the graveyard and does nothing could never do. So to me, it feels like a really worthwhile trade-off, particularly since our strategies are so linear and tight and can win under stacks so effectively.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stacks pieces in these colors, honestly. Most of them being artifacts. There's like a couple like black enchantments that I think we decided against, like Contamination.
That would have been sick.
it would have been an excellent stacks piece, but like it's just too much.
Similar with Chains of Mephistopheles. That was one that I was looking at for a bit, and I was kind of just like, we're already kind of saying fuck blue by not running any counterspells. If we're saying fuck blue by also not drawing cards, it just feels like we're playing an extra color for like no reason. So, then this is sort of a tangent, but a couple of our blue enchantments as well can sort of act as stacks pieces. We didn't mention this, but like Heuristic Study in a lot of cases, if you're playing with a more conscientious pod, is kind of just another Thorn effect. Like obviously it's great if you draw cards off it, but like it can also just be used to like severely inhibit someone's game plan. Same deal with Mystic Remora. Like trying to go off through those, obviously a dubious proposition that a lot of people will balk at, particularly since they will probably think we are running counterspells because we're in Sultai. Yep. After this video, that might not be the case.
Yeah, the Seeker's going to be out.
They might know, but right now they don't know. So it's been very effective in that regard.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that's really that's all I have to say about most of this. Anything else you want to address?
Not so far. If anything, I'm probably gonna try to get you to watch this gameplay for the first time I played the deck.
Oh, let's do that. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how it's gonna work, but hold on, I'm gonna pause the recording.
This gemstone and pitch a Bloodstained Mine.
Tundra into Esper Sentinel.
Yep. Cracking for a
Esper Sentinel trigger.
You can draw. We'll tap the Bayou and the Crypt for a Trinisphere.
You serious?
Right.
Let me just write down there was a turn 1 Trinisphere. City of Brass, and I will pass.
Wooded Foothills pass.
Untap, upkeep, draw a card. Look at that, that's a Scrubland. Tag Kai for 1.
Fair enough, take one.
I fetch, but I don't do anything else. I get a Bayou.
Obviously, I passed the turn.
Turn 1 Trinisphere is disgusting.
For an Arcane Signet.
Esper Sentinel trigger.
I'll pay. Yeah, and then I'll pass the turn.
Right. Draw. I'm gonna play this Misty Rainforest, and I will crack it for an Underground Sea. Lose 1. I'll pay 3 to cast a Fellwash Stone. I'm not paying.
I will draw.
Get the Underground Sea and I'll pass.
Okay, Exotic Urshot pass.
Untap, upkeep, draw. Interesting. Well, that's sad. I take 1.
Got it.
Move to discard. I will dump this, what I just drew, Fellwash Stone, into the bin.
Got it. Pay 3 for Z&D.
So she does what exactly?
Whenever I draw my second card each turn, target opponent loses 2 life, and I gain 2 life. And sacrifice another creature, draw a card. You may put a land from my hand into the battlefield tapped. If you control 8 or more lands, repeat this process once.
All right.
Also, again, your
so it's,
underground seas tapped.
Hulk. Basically, you have Hulk stack outlet.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I'll pass.
I'll pay 3 mana, cast Timna.
Drenneth, pass.
Nice.
Untap upkeep draw. Great. I love this game. I will move to the discard phase. I'll dump this Wishclaw Talisman into my graveyard.
Yep. Hulk.
Yeah, that's game.
Oh,
Yeah.
please win. Oh yeah, GG. Thanks for making it quick.